Number 10, Maker. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The Ultimate Universe is awesome. Hulk in this universe is actually quite a bit scarier, at least to me. You know who else is scarier? Reed Richards, the Maker. The Maker is the Reed Richards of the Ultimate Universe, who is evil. He's part of a group of superpowered beings alongside Hulk, Human Torch, Kang, and Quicksilver, who are called the Dark Ultimates. They are essentially villains together, and Hulk and Maker are actually kind of on the same team. Maker actually battles Hulk in a more psychological way, when he calms one of his rampages and convinces him he's being used by S.H.I.E.L.D. After a whole whack of confusing comic booky stuff, the Ultimates all team up and save the day, and then travel the cosmos hunting down the Maker. Number 9. The Leader. It's a great name, honestly. The Leader. Nice. Rightfully so too. This guy is one of the Hulk's oldest rivals. Samuel Stearns was a janitor at a chemical facility where he unfortunately also had an incident involving gamma radiation. Samuel's gamma mutations gained him a super genius level intelligence, along with some telepathy. He also has the gamma ability of self-resurrection. There is actually an instance in Immortal Hulk number 39 in which he physically consumes the intelligence of another man, Brian Banner. But we don't know if this is a normal ability or a kind of mental representation of him consuming another person's knowledge, since he was in the below place at the time. The Leader fights with Bruce on so many different occasions, but the Immortal Hulk story is the one I'm really into right now. You should check it out if you haven't before. Number 8, Maestro. The Maestro is technically Hulk himself, only an alternate version, one who lived through a nuclear apocalypse. He has the intelligence of Bruce, but basically double the strength of Hulk in his base form. He has easily defeated the Hulk several times, and his existence as a possible future version of the Hulk scares the hell out of Bruce himself. He is what would happen if you took the Hulk and made him evil and power hungry and powered him up. In his timeline, he rules over the megacity of Dystopia, where the remnants of humanity live, and he overthrew the former ruler Hercules not through pure strength, but through deception. He is powerful, ruthless, and just a pretty rude dude. Well, here we are. We meet again, at the end of the 8th point. You know how great you are? Pretty great. When you gingerly press upon that like and subscribe button, it lets us know that this is the kind of content you like to see. So, thanks for doing that. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook too. You can find a little extra content. Alright, let's carry on, shall we? Number 7. Juggernaut. Cain Marko, the avatar of the god Sidorak. Cain is a Thor-level threat to the Marvel Universe, wielding the abilities granted to him by the Gem of Sidorak. Juggernaut has almost limitless super strength and stamina. He has a nearly invulnerable force field. He's immortal, and when he does somehow get damaged, he has a ridiculous healing factor. His main ability, however, is irresistible force embodiment, meaning once he begins to advance in a certain direction, it is virtually impossible to halt his movements. Guess who is one of the only characters to actually stop him? Thor! Yes, but shut up! Hulk! Hulk was one of them when he was War Hulk. Gosh, I gotta stop getting ahead of myself. Number 6. Nightmare. A mysterious lord of fear. Nightmare is basically an unstoppable demon capable of capturing the astral form or spirit of a person while they are sleeping. Nightmare has been shown to be capable of subduing 2 earth demigods, an eternal and an elder god. That's the kind of power we're talking about. But you can solve any problem when you're an impossibly strong green monster made of pure muscle, right? Nightmare manages to capture Hulk's mind and send him on a rampage against Dr. Stephen Strange. Luckily, the good doctor was able to contact Banner inside the Hulk's mind. I don't really know how one does this, but Banner transformed into the Hulk inside the Hulk's mind and fought off Nightmare. They've clashed a few other times, like when he took off Nightmare's head and stole his horse. Again, I don't know how it works, but it is what it is. Number 5. Onslaught. After Magneto used his powers to rip the adamantium out of Wolverine's body, Professor Xavier snapped and shut down the mind of Magneto. In the process of this, Xavier absorbed all the anger, grief, and lust for vengeance from Magneto's mind, which molded with every long suppressed negative feeling the Professor had endured during the last 30 years. This resulted in a personality forming within Xavier, known as Onslaught, that would eventually separate to become a separate entity all on its own. Onslaught was incredibly powerful, and all the Avengers, X-Men, and Fantastic Four could not take him. That's when Bruce Banner's Hulk said, "Hold my beer," and told Phoenix to turn off the Bruce personality inside his head. She did, and the Savage Hulk beat Onslaught so hard he destroyed his impenetrable armor, allowing Thor to land a massive blow and the heroes to take the win. Number 4, Thanos. Thanos is an interesting one, and we're talking without the Infinity Gauntlet. See, he is exceedingly strong, so much so that he can stand toe to toe with Hulk, at least at Hulk's base strength. Thanos tends to have the advantage in most of their conflicts, using his intelligence and martial skill to take the win more often than not. We see an excellent example of this in the MCU's Infinity War, even if it was a stupid excuse for Hulk not to show up for the rest of the movie. The two of these guys have traded wins pretty evenly, but Thanos has the advantage in my mind. If you have the time, check out the Thanos vs. Hulk 4-part story. It's a cool story involving Annihilus, and it leads right into Thanos the Infinity Relativity, which is also a really fun read. Number 3, Surtur. We mentioned the MCU in the last point, but I thought I'd go full force into it. In Thor Ragnarok, we get to see Hulk attack Surtur, the fire giant, as he is destroying Asgard with the Twilight Sword. It's actually really awesome. So he has fought Surtur, but how would that go in the comics? That's a good question. Well, we know that Surtur's main purpose is to beat Odin, so he is at least on Odin's level. You know who else is on Odin's level? Zeus. And Zeus and Hulk have had a bit of a scuffle once upon a time, which didn't go well for the Hulk. But then again, you take one of Hulk's more powerful forms like Worldbreaker Hulk or Heart of the Monster Hulk, and Hulk takes the win every time. Number 2, Galactus. He's a cosmic being who goes around eating planets, and he thinks he can try to come to Earth and pull that nonsense? We have a Hulk. Earth's dinner menu is no longer available. Oh, just kidding. The Hulk has not won against Galactus, and they've never really had a one-on-one fight. It's safe to say that of all the heroes on Earth, Hulk is maybe one who could make Galactus notice him though. But that's likely as far as it will go. Just like with Surtur, in theory he could win if he got angry enough, but we just haven't had an example of that. And it would have to be quite the insane level of power for Hulk to take the win. Hulk does actually become the Herald of Galactus at one point when he becomes Worldbreaker Hulk in What If World War Hulk, and it is just insane. Number 1, the One Below All. In the Immortal Hulk storyline, Hulk is transported to the Below Place, which is the realm of the One Below All. Now, just to give some context, in Marvel Comics there's a character called the One Above All, who hasn't really been seen all too often, but it essentially is the equivalent to God, or the Creator. Now we have gods like Odin and Zeus and Thor in Marvel Comics, but this is different. It is like the God of everything, the supreme ruler of creation and compassion. It's even been represented as the writers of Marvel at one point, to give you an idea. So the One Below All is the antithesis to this, the personification of destruction and hate. The One Below All is trapped in the Below Place and manifests in realities through Gamma. Basically, this means that Hulk and the other Gamma mutated beings have fractions of the One Below All's power. In an alternate future, it would actually take over Bruce Banner's body and use his power to devour the cosmic entity Eternity, and eventually it would eradicate all life in the multiverse. Luckily, this is prevented in the Immortal Hulk storyline, but I'm telling you, go read this. Number 10, Beast. Alright, yes, he looks absolutely ridiculous. I'll admit that. When I think of two-headed monsters, I usually picture two separated heads on one pair of shoulders. But Beast does one better by putting two heads stacked vertically on one neck. Well played, I think. Basically, Beast is an android created by the now extinct race of bird people, who were a subspecies of Inhumans. They created Beast to have one head with the knowledge of warfare and the other with the knowledge of culture. I figured having a head so cultured he'd be able to avoid most conflicts, but that doesn't seem to be the case. His first appearance was in Incredible Hulk number 169, when Hulk and Harpy visited the avian city of Aerie and were captured by Beast. He makes a fitting villain for Hulk, as his strength rivals the Hulk's. He does not get tired and he feels no pain. But like most two-headed antagonists, his heads can't seem to get along, always giving Bruce an edge. Number 9, Wendigo. Wendigo is, and I quote, an indestructible force of nature having been made by the gods. But these are the elder gods of Canadian folklore, so that makes them so much better, eh? The curse of the Wendigo has affected a large group of different people, and essentially happens when a human consumes other human flesh. Ick. Different versions of Wendigo and packs of Wendigo have fought against Wolverine, the Canadian team Alpha Flight, and obviously against the Hulk. multiple times. The Wendigo curse turns whoever is infected by it into super strength wielding, nearly indestructible, furry, human consuming monsters, and they are nothing to croak at. Strength capable of lifting at least 75 tons, super speed, stamina that could last several days, durability that could withstand repeated strikes from the Hulk, a healing factor, and immortality as long as they are afflicted by the curse. If it wasn't for the whole consuming people and being a monster, the curse doesn't sound too bad, honestly. Number 8. Absorbing Man. Karl Crusher Creel, a former boxer, became the villain known as Absorbing Man by drinking a potion given to him by the Asgardian trickster Loki. Karl here has the ability of omnimorph duplication, which is essentially the ability to take on properties of anything he touches, living, inanimate, or even forms of energy. Absorbing Man was originally a villain for Thor, but at this point a ton of Thor's villains are also Hulk villains, so... The Absorbing Man's first fight with Hulk in Incredible Hulk number 125 showed him absorbing Hulk's power before being depowered when Hulk reverted back to Banner. But this was far from their last encounter, and the Absorbing Man has grown and learned how to do more with his power. For an example of how scary this guy can be, look no further than the Immortal Hulk comics in issue 36 specifically. Creel turns into a gamma-powered sandstorm. Number 7. Ironclad. When a team of 4 scientists tried to replicate the rocket flight that gave the Fantastic Four their powers, they were successful and became the villain team known as the UFOs. They immediately came into conflict with the Incredible Hulk. The bruiser of the team was a guy named Mike Steele, who became the villain Ironclad, gaining a metallic armored skin that gives him superhuman durability capable of resisting Hulk's punches, mass and density manipulation, and superhuman strength that was powerful but nowhere near the same strength as the Hulk, which causes him to resent the Hulk quite a bit. In the Incredible Hulk number 305, Hulk comes into conflict with Ironclad and the UFOs in another dimension. When Hulk and Ironclad ram into each other to start the fight, the force of it reverberates along the pathways leading from the crossroads to an infinite number of dimensions. They shook the multiverse. I am shooketh. Wow, the Hulk is just incredible, isn't he? But you know who else is incredible? That's right. It's you guys. Because of your mere existence, I get to spend my days making videos for you to watch. And the more you like, comment, and subscribe, the more videos we are able to give you. It seems like a pretty fantastic trade-off. Thanks, guys. Number 6. Fin Fang Foom. He whose limbs shatter mountains and whose back scrapes the sun. Fin Fang Foom is part of a race of shape-shifting aliens from a world called Kakaranthara, or the much easier Maklu 4. Foom was the navigator of a spacecraft that landed on Earth in ancient China, and he volunteered to be put in a tomb in a deep slumber to serve as a backup plan for the other Makluans to conquer Earth. Fin Fang Foom looks a lot like a kind of humanized Chinese dragon when he is in his natural form, and is massive, shapeshifting from anywhere between 32 to 255 feet. He has super strength, stamina, durability, and longevity. He has telepathy and flight, spiritual possession, energy assimilation, acid mist, and potential transmogrification abilities. He has fought so many heroes, including the Hulk, multiple times. Specifically though, I want to bring your attention to the Hulk vs. Fin Fang Foom comic, where during the altercation, Hulk threw the massive dragon-looking alien to the moon, yelling, "Just leave!" Number 5. Abomination. As a longtime adversary of the Hulk, of course the Abomination has to pack a serious punch. Emil Blonsky was a KGB spy at the Gamma base during the Cold War. Wanting to be like the Hulk, he exposed himself to a greater amount of gamma radiation than Bruce Banner, but it didn't exactly go the way he wanted. Emil has a lot of the same abilities as Hulk. Super resistant to damage, can breathe underwater, a healing factor, and can travel huge distances in a single bound. Unfortunately for Hulk though, Abomination is actually twice the base strength of the Hulk, and he retains his intelligence while in the form of Abomination, which he is permanently stuck in. He has a deep hatred for the Hulk, being beaten by him so many times, and has teamed up with many other core Hulk villains, specifically General Ross, to go after the big green Goliath. Abomination first appeared in Tales to Astonish number 90 in 1967, and thanks to Shang-Chi, we know he is still active in the MCU, so let's hope we get to see him return in a much bigger way. Number 4. Red Hulk. General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross has been an obsessed and long-time adversary to Bruce Banner, even before he became the Hulk, literally appearing in the very first Hulk comic. When the Hulk emerged, Thaddeus made it his mission to hunt him down. But when his daughter and Bruce Banner's love interest, Betty Ross, died, and Hulk was exiled from Earth, General Ross was both grieving and purposeless, until the villains MODOK and the Leader convinced him to join them to take on the Hulk when he eventually returned. They siphoned off energy and power from the Hulk and gave it to Thaddeus, turning him into the Red Hulk. With almost all the same powers of the Hulk, plus some that are unique to him, Ross is an incredibly powerful character. He has easily killed the Abomination, defeated Odin Force Thor with caveats, obviously, punched the Watcher unconscious, and killed an Elder of the Universe. He can control his transformation to Red Hulk, emits gamma radiation as heat that gets hotter and hotter as he gets angrier and angrier, even becoming an explosion if angry enough. He absorbs energy, usually gamma, but has absorbed and stolen the Silver Surfer's power cosmic, riding off into the distance on his silver surfboard. He is an incredibly powerful villain and has gone on to become a hero. Number 3. Armageddon. This is the only character on this list I had not heard of before. Let me know if it's the same for you, but Armageddon, or Armageddon, is the warlord of the Trojan Empire and is also one of Incredible Hulk's greatest enemies. Armageddon first appears in Incredible Hulk number 413 as the ruler of the Trojan Empire, and has incredible superhuman strength and durability. But he differs from most Hulk villains in that strength isn't his main power. No, Armageddon has the ability to channel and release huge amounts of cosmic energy through his body. Armageddon blames Hulk for the death of his son, Trauma, and when he captures Hulk and forces him to power a machine to revive his son, Hulk overdoes it, and the machine instead completely disintegrates Trauma's body. Yikes, dude. Armageddon sorta not really gets his own back in Incredible Hulk's 632. When he poisons Rick Jones and She-Hulk and throws them off of an aircraft high in the sky. They were fine, and it mainly just led to Hulk using the full scale of his World Breaker Hulk power to pummel the Cosmic Warlord almost to death. Number 2. Kang the Conqueror. Rama Tut. He Who Remains. Nathaniel Richards. Kang the Conqueror, a big-time Avengers baddie, and our next MCU major villain. Of course, if we're talking about Kang the Conqueror, we're going to be talking about time travel. While these two have done battle while Hulk was in the Avengers, in the Incredible Hulk number 135, Kang kidnaps the Hulk and sends him back to 1917 to take out a guy known as Phantom Eagle, who was supposed to destroy a giant German mortar cannon that could take out one of Bruce Banner's own ancestors, meaning that the Hulk would cease to be and the Avengers never would have formed. I kind of feel like Kang could probably just do this himself, and in more ways than going back to 1917 and destroying a cannon that would destroy an ancestor of the guy who becomes Hulk. But what do I know? I don't know. Instead of taking out Phantom Eagle, the Hulk accidentally takes out the mortar cannon by himself, sending him back to the present and sending Kang to the limbo. A different kind of fight, but a fight nonetheless. Number 1. The Void. In the comments of the last video, I saw someone comment that Hulk has fought the Sentry, and that is very true. And Sentry is an exceedingly crazy powerful character, but I didn't want to cheat and use a hero for this list like I've done before. Instead, I looked a little deeper. The Sentry, Robert Reynolds, has an interesting trait to his character called the Void. The Void is Robert's internal, eternal nemesis, a destructive embodiment of all Robert's negative aspects that has the power to destroy the world and even potentially the universe. Now, even in the very first appearance of the Void, the Hulk was there, and they did fight a little, but in the Sentry number 3, the Void shows up separate from the Sentry and it fights the Hulk and breaks every single bone in his body. It's intense.
Number 10. Speed Freak. Speed Freak is a criminal and an addict who killed an inventor and stole his battle suit in order to become a super-powered addict criminal. His intimidating battle suit helps him to fly as well as create holographic images and features adamantium cutting blades as well as projectile barbs, which have helped him to go toe-to-toe with the Hulk, even managing to slice open the Hulk's stomach at one point. What makes Speed Freak scary is his lack of humanity. working as a killer for hire in order to feed his addiction. He also shows no care for potential collateral damage, once attacking an AIDS benefit concert in order to try and take out one of his targets. Speed Freak was one of the villains killed in the Stamford incident, a fight between a group of villains and the New Warriors, which resulted in huge amounts of collateral damage and directly led to the Superhero Registration Act and the resulting Civil War. Certainly not the scariest villain on this list, but one I wouldn't want to run into in a dark alley nonetheless. Number 9. The Dogs of War. Developed by the United States military for hunting down the Jade Giant, the Dogs of War were 4 ordinary dogs that were fed gamma-infused meat that transformed them into gamma mutates. They were used to track the Hulk's scent and were trained to attack him when they found him, but being rage-fueled Hulk dogs, they attacked both the Hulk and their military handlers. Now, being attacked by a dog is a horrifying experience under the best of circumstances, but dealing with giant canines with super strength and anger issues is even worse. These paralyzing pooches had only one appearance in Incredible Hulk Volume 2, Issue 14, but they made an impact, being adapted on screen in the criminally underrated Hulk film a couple years later. Number 8. Zax. The first of a few energy drainers on this list, Zax was formed when a group of villains tried to plant a bomb at a nuclear energy plant. Rather than causing an explosion, this caused the energy in the plant's pylon to gain sentience, incinerating the villains and absorbing their intelligence. Zax then went on a rampage, destroying everything and everyone in its path in order to gain as much intelligence as possible. In his first appearance, Zax destroyed several city blocks in the course of a few minutes, killing untold numbers of people and growing 40 feet tall before being confronted by the Hulk. As if that wasn't scary enough, it has also been revealed that incinerating people and stealing their psionic energy is a physically pleasurable experience for the monster. So Zax isn't just killing to gain strength and power, he's also doing it because it feels good. Number 7. Piecemeal. Piecemeal was once a normal man until he was captured and killed by the Red Skull, who wanted to use his body for an evil experiment. The Red Skull's scientists replaced several of his limbs and extremities, turning him into a terrifying beast. Piecemeal eventually escaped from the Red Skull's island and made his way to the mainland with no memories of his previous life. Piecemeal is obviously a pretty scary looking dude, and his superhuman strength and ability to shoot energy blasts make him a formidable foe, but these are not the things that make him terrifying. As he has no memories of his life, Piecemeal wants to experience as much of the spectrum of human emotion as possible. He does this by triggering the emotions of people and then touching them to absorb their emotions and memories, not stopping until the victim is a worn-out husk. One of the ways he triggers people's emotions is by transforming his face to look like them, putting them into a state of shock. He wanted to absorb the Hulk's rage, but was instead impaled and thrown into Loch Ness. This was thought to be the end of the villainous monster, but when the Hulk searched the loch, he could find no body. Was Piecemeal eaten by the Loch Ness monster? Or is he still wandering the earth, draining victims? Number 6. The Quintronic Man. The Quintronic Man is an exosuit that was developed to be piloted by 5 men trained to act as one. Although originally developed for space exploration, it was instead used to battle the Hulk in Incredible Hulk number 213, even managing to beat the Hulk in that issue. While this isn't particularly scary, what puts the Quintronic Man on this list is its later appearance in Indestructible Hulk number 3. In this story, AIM is attempting to reactivate the Quintronic Man for their own nefarious purposes. In order to accomplish this, they reassemble the original 5 pilots. The only issue? 4 of them are dead. Thankfully for AIM, they are able to use electrochemical technology to ensure that the Quintronic Man still has psionic access to the dead pilot's skills and reflexes and can thus use the dead body's muscle memories to control the robot. In layman's terms, this means that the Hulk is being attacked by a robot full of corpses, which is equal parts scary and disturbing. The Quintronic Man puts up quite a struggle against the Hulk, but it meets its end when Hulk pushes it into a volcano. Number 5. Red Hulk. After the death of his daughter at the hands of the Abomination, longtime Hulk enemy Thunderbolt Ross fell into a deep depression that was only worsened by a perceived lack of purpose after the Hulk was shipped off-world in the Planet Hulk storyline. He was approached by MODOK and the Leader, who convinced him to join their evil super team, the intelligentsia. During the events of World War Hulk, they managed to siphon energy off of the Hulk and transfer it into Ross, transforming him into the Red Hulk. Red Hulk has all of Ross's smarts as well as his legendary temper, but lacks Hulk's compassion, making him a dangerous and terrifying enemy. With the help of a life model decoy, Ross was able to hide his Red Hulk identity for some time, continuing to work for the government while still going on missions for the intelligentsia. Number 4. Abomination. Emil Blonsky was a communist spy who was working undercover at the same military base as Bruce Banner, working to sabotage the Gamma experiments so that US forces would not become more advanced than the communists. When a distraught Bruce Banner tried to take his own life with a Gamma machine in his lab, Blonsky was there spying on the professor. When Bruce's self-harm attempt was interrupted and he was taken away, Blonsky was hit by the Gamma radiation instead. Like Banner, Blonsky had a strange genetic variation that caused the gamma rays to transform him into the Abomination. Abomination is able to retain his human intelligence and is actually stronger than the Hulk unless the Hulk reaches a state of total enragement. Unlike Banner, Abomination is thrilled with his new form and regularly goes on rampages, killing entire towns. He considers Hulk his equal, as both are disfigured and alone, but when he learned that Bruce had married his longtime sweetheart Betty Ross, he was enraged at the idea that the Hulk was happier than him. In a move of sociopathic pettiness, when Betty was hospitalized, Blonsky injected his blood into her dialysis machine, killing her with gamma poisoning. Number 3. Half-Life. In an origin not dissimilar to the Hulk's, Tony Masterson was an ordinary college professor until he was exposed to a gamma bomb. This turned Masterson into essentially a living corpse who only comes alive at night. He uses his vampiric powers to drain his victim's life force with his touch. When he touches a gamma-powered character, such as the Hulk, he drains their powers rather than their life force. In his first appearance in Incredible Hulk number 334, he tried to drain the Hulk's powers, hoping that they would give him enough life force to be able to stay alive during the day, but Hulk managed to defeat him, ripping his arms off. To the Hulk's shock, Half-Life was still able to use his arms despite them not being attached. He was later given a titanium battle suit by the leader and very nearly destroyed the Jade Giant, but because he overused his powers in doing so, he ended up in a mummified coma. Number 2. The Wendigo. The Wendigo is a figure from indigenous folklore that was first adapted to Marvel Comics in Incredible Hulk number 162. The curse of the Wendigo is something that happens when a person engages in cannibalism in the Canadian wilderness. The curse causes the person to transform into a vicious creature who has an insatiable hunger for human flesh. In its first comics appearance, the Wendigo is a man named Paul Cartier, who goes on a hunting trip with his friends Georges Baptiste and Henri Clouzot. When they are attacked by wolves, the trio are forced to hide in a cave where Henri dies. After 4 days trapped in the cave with no supplies, Georges wakes up and finds Paul eating his friend's remains, inadvertently giving himself the Wendigo curse. Over the years, Wendigo and Hulk clashed several times before Paul's friend Georges managed to transfer the curse to himself, freeing his friend and becoming the second Wendigo. This Wendigo was eventually defeated by Alpha Flight with the help of Wolverine and Nightcrawler. In the years since, several different Wendigos have cropped up in Marvel's Canadian wilderness, each more dangerous than the last. Number 1. Brian Banner. Bruce Banner's father, Brian, is scary because he is all too real. After being abused by his own father, Brian vowed to never have children. Although an accomplished scientist, Brian struggled with alcoholism and anger issues, and when his wife became pregnant and gave birth to Bruce, he became abusive to both of them. This culminated one Christmas when his wife tried to take Bruce and leave, and Brian killed her. Brian was put in a mental institute as a result until he was released 15 years later. During a confrontation between Bruce and Brian at his mother's grave, the two got into a fight, and Bruce accidentally killed his father. Bruce repressed this memory and spent the next several years believing that his father had been killed in a robbery. As if that weren't bad enough, Bruce was haunted by the ghost of his abusive father until he confronted his father in hell during a period of death in Incredible Hulk 460. Brian is the source of most of Bruce's fears, which proved to be most unfortunate when he was resurrected in the Chaos War as a hybrid of the Devil Hulk and the Guilt Hulk. a dangerous and powerful being who fed off of his son's fear. When that failed and Brian died again, he gained the ability to possess gamma mutates using his influence to control several characters, including Jailbait, Sasquatch, the Absorbing Man, and even the Hulk himself. Even before gaining hellish powers, Brian Banner was the villain that both Bruce Banner and the Hulk were most afraid of. The fact that he now has the ability to control some of Hulk's allies and turn them against him makes him all the more frightening. Number 10. Bi-Beast. Created by an extinct race of aliens called the Bird People, Bi-Beast is an android with two heads stacked on top of each other. In one head is the knowledge of warfare and tactics, while the other is filled with information on culture. I mean, it's a little weird that the Bird People didn't just put all of this information into one slightly larger head, but hey, I'm just some guy on YouTube. What do I know about alien android design? First appearing in Incredible Hulk number 169, Bi-Beast was left alone in the floating city of Aerie after the extinction of his alien masters. When the city's machines stopped working due to deterioration, Bi-Beast captured Bruce Banner to try and force him to repair them. Banner tricked Bi-Beast and instead used the alien technology to cure Harpy and return her to her true form of Betty Ross. This resulted in a fight between Bi-Beast and the Hulk, but this fight was abandoned when Bi-Beast realized that MODOK was attacking the city. Rather than let the floating city be captured, Bi-Beast activated the city's self-destruct protocols, seemingly dying in the process. Now, Bi-Beast has reappeared a few times in the years since, trying to destroy the world and kill the Hulk, but honestly, other than his strange appearance, there's not much scary about him. But hey, someone's gotta be at the bottom of the list. Number 9. Cyclop. Cyclop is a one-eyed member of an ancient insectoid race who worship the dark gods. Cyclop was chosen to be an agent of these dark gods who gave him the task of finding them a power source that could summon them. If he succeeded, the gods promised to reawaken his race so that they could conquer Earth for themselves. He chose the Hulk as his power source and captured him in Avengers number 88, hoping to shrink him down to a more manageable size. When the Avengers interrupted this process to fight the villain, the Hulk was left alone and no one was able to turn off the machine, and the Jade Giant was accidentally shrunk so small that he vanished from sight. Cyclop found the Hulk in the microverse and the two battled, but Hulk came out victorious. Yet another villain who is more scary looking than anything else. I do like the idea of a bug cultist trying to bring back dark gods in order to take over the world though. He has only had 11 appearances, so maybe he can earn a higher spot on the list at some point in the future. Number 8. Lord Armageddon. The warlord of an alien race called the Trojan. Armageddon led his armies to numerous victories against several worlds in his efforts to expand his empire. He was so consumed with this expansion that he didn't notice when his wife died giving birth to his twin sons. When one of his twins was murdered by Atalanta, the surviving son fell in love with her and decided to try and marry her, and kidnapped her, bringing her back to his homeworld. Lord Armageddon supported this, and when Hulk and the Silver Surfer came to try and rescue Atalanta, Armageddon managed to incapacitate both the heroes. When his son Trauma fell on a broken piece of armor and died, he asked his father to give the heroes and his beloved safe passage home. Armageddon later tried to bring his son back to life, but the machine he was using was destroyed by Hulk. Although this earned the Hulk Armageddon's respect, it also caused him to vow revenge on the Hulk. I think anyone who is so obsessed with interstellar domination and who can fight the Hulk and the Silver Surfer is pretty scary, but mostly just because of how much raw power they are dealing with. So if this were a video ranking the powers of the villains, perhaps he would be higher on this list. Number 7. Harpy. After longtime Hulk love interest Betty Ross's husband was seemingly killed in a rescue mission gone wrong, she suffered a nervous breakdown. MODOK learned of this and pumped her full of gamma radiation, hoping to create a creature that could go toe-to-toe with the Hulk. The gamma rays gave Betty wings, talons, and the ability to shoot dangerous rays from her hands, and she became the insane creature known as Harpy. As stated before, Bruce Banner was able to use Bi-Beast's tech to save her, and Betty would go on to marry Bruce, die, and then come back to life as the Red She-Hulk, before further mutating into the Red Harpy, who is more of an ally to the Hulk than an enemy. Harpy has a scary look, no doubt, but what I find scary about her is more so the idea of the person Hulk loves more than anything becoming a monster that wants him dead. Having to then fight her and deal with the fact that even if he wins the fight, he's just hurt Betty. It adds a certain level of dread and nuance that you don't get with a lot of the other villains. Number 6. Absorbing Man. After the death of his mother, Carl Creel's father became abusive towards him, eventually kicking him out to live on the street when he eventually tried to fight back. In order to survive, Creel engaged in petty theft to support himself while building his career as a boxer. Creel eventually became an enforcer for the Owl before getting arrested. While serving his sentence, he was chosen by Loki to be a pawn in one of his schemes against Thor. Loki spiked the inmate's water with Asgardian herbs that granted him the power to absorb the properties of any element he touched. He used his powers to absorb the powers and properties of Mjolnir, Thor's magical hammer, and was able to successfully take on the God of Thunder, although he was eventually defeated in a rematch. Absorbing Man went on to battle many heroes, including the Hulk, who he was hired to kill by an evil organization called They Who Wield Power. Although this didn't work, he did tangle with the Hulk a few other times, such as when they fought on Easter Island, and Absorbing Man absorbed the island in hopes of taking over the world. I didn't include Absorbing Man in the first video because he has fought so many Marvel heroes that it's hard to call him a Hulk villain. However, he is a major player in the Immortal Hulk series, so let's go with it. In this series, he was given an injection of Hulk Plug, which turned him red and let him absorb gamma radiation. He fought the Hulk and inadvertently absorbed the demonic being known as the One Below All. This gave Creel a very painful looking and significantly more terrifying appearance, and caused him, Hulk, and all the members of Gamma Flight to be transported to the Demon's Realm. Creel helped stop the One Below All and was offered a spot on Gamma Flight by Puck, where he currently works as a hero rather than a villain. Number 5. Glob. When a prisoner named Joe Timms learned that the love of his life was dying, Joe decided to escape prison in order to see her one last time. Unfortunately for him, he drowned in the swamp near the prison before he could make it back to her. Years later, the Hulk was disposing of a barrel of radioactive waste, and in a move that I'm sure the EPA would be horrified by, threw it into the swamp. The waste revived Timms and transformed his body into the deformed, gloopy mess you see before you. Because she seemingly just can't catch a break, Betty Ross was mistaken by the Glob for his lost love. This caused Glob to kidnap her and for the Hulk to go after him. As a creature of goop, the Hulk was unable to damage him with his fists, and if he hadn't been destroyed by the same radioactive waters that spawned him, Hulk may have been out of luck. Glob was later reformed by the Leader and has tangled with the Hulk a few times in the years since. Speaking of which, number 4, the Leader. Samuel Stearns was a man of below average intelligence who was working at a chemical plant when one of the canisters of waste he was moving broke open and doused him in the toxic waste. On the plus side, rather than giving him cancer, it gave him super intelligence. On the flip side, it also caused his head to grow to a massive size and for his skin to turn green. Stearns decided to dedicate himself to taking over the world and started calling himself the Leader. Now, there is no doubt that the Leader is one of Hulk's greatest foes, if not the greatest of them. I mean, it's either him or Abomination. A lot of you were shocked at him being left off of part 1 of this list, and honestly, my reasoning was that the Leader isn't especially scary compared to the other villains he recruits for his schemes against the Hulk. However, considering the amount of horrifying plots he is responsible for, combined with how disturbing the character was in his run in Immortal Hulk when he grew to giant size and attacked the Hulk with tendrils, I'm happy to include him here. While we're on the subject, I'm currently working on a video about the Immortal Hulk for our Attempting to Explain series, so keep an eye out for that in the coming weeks. Number 3, Madman. Coming in at the number 3 slot, we actually have the Leader's brother, Philip Stearns. Phil was a student at Caltech at the same time as Bruce Banner. Although brilliant in his own right, he was jealous of Bruce's superior intellect and developed an obsession with his classmate. When Bruce became the Hulk, this infatuation became became dangerous, as Phil started experimenting on himself with gamma radiation in order to try and be more like his favorite hero. Not only did this result in Stearns becoming a super strong, deformed monster, but it caused what was left of his sanity to snap, and him to develop multiple personality disorder. Although he initially tried to kill the Hulk, he later changed his mind, deciding to remain a villain, but to not kill Hulk, as life would be too boring without him to annoy. Now, the idea of a Hulk who has developed DID and is obsessed with Bruce Banner and the Hulk is pretty disturbing, and is frightening enough that the leader actually once teamed up with the Hulk to defeat him, confessing to Hulk that he is scared of Madman. Although years later, Leader would eventually kill his brother in Thunderbolts Volume 2, Issue 6. Number 2. Xemnu. This fluffy beast is an alien with the power to hypnotize people on a mass scale who crash landed on Earth. He planned on using his hypnotic powers to make the people of Earth build him a new ship in order to return to his home planet, despite the fact that the force of the rocket would tear the Earth apart. Although this plan failed, Xemnu did eventually make his way back to his home planet, where he discovered that everyone had died of disease. He returned to Earth, where he was engaged in many schemes to use his hypnotism to take over the planet. He has fought a lot of heroes such as Namor, Iron Man, and Deadpool, but he seems to hate the Hulk the most. In one of his more creative schemes, he tricked the Hulk into defeating a monster, causing a wave of parasites to be unleashed on nearby civilians. Xemnu then showed up and stopped the parasites and implanted false memories in all the witnesses' minds of him being a hero. He continued to use these powers to turn public opinion against the Hulk before Hulk eventually defeated him. When killed, Xemnu can reform his body by taking over someone else's body and gradually transforming it into his. As if that wasn't bad enough, he has developed a taste for humans and regularly consumes them in brutal and terrifying ways. Number 1. The One Below All. So the One Above All is the ruler of the multiverse and the creator of all life in it. Although he is the source of love and good, he also has an evil form known as the One Below All, who is the personification of hatred and destruction. The ruler of the lowest point of reality, the below place, is able to manifest itself on Earth through the mutagenic form of gamma radiation. This means that when Bruce Banner was caught in the gamma bomb, he was infused with this dark entity's power. The One Below All wants to become the only remaining thing in the multiverse and destroy everything else. As he is incapable of having his own personality without a host, it waited until Hulk's father, Brian Banner, died to merge with him and take on his personality, which, if you know the character or watched part 1 of this video, you know is a really bad thing. The leader eventually managed to absorb Brian's soul in hopes of learning more about the One Below All, but was possessed by the One Below All. It's hard to say which actions to count as the One Below Alls and which to count as Brian Banner or the leaders, but his influence is undeniably horrible and worthy of the top spot on this list.